When the greatest basketball legend in history questioned the worth of a battlefield far from any court, he expected silence. What he got was a thunderous truth from a man who fights not for trophies, but for freedom. In a world obsessed with fame, one humble African soldier dared to redefine what it means to truly win, and the legend was left speechless. Michael Jordan never liked being told he wasn't the greatest. His life had been defined by the pursuit of greatness, by a perfectionism so relentless it crushed opponents, intimidated teammates, and sculpted him into an icon. From buzzer beaters to 6 championship rings, he didn't just win, he dominated. His brand wasn't just about basketball, it was about becoming a symbol of American excellence. So when a rising African leader, a young revolutionary with no sports credentials, began trending globally for redefining what winning meant, something inside Jordan stirred. And not in a good way. It all started with a moment. One brief but profound comment delivered halfway across the world. Ibrahim Traoré, the 36-year-old president of Burkina Faso, was attending a youth summit at the United Nations in Nairobi. His path to leadership had not been paved with golden endorsements or corporate sponsorships, but with revolution, sacrifice, and a promise to restore dignity to his people. At the summit, a teenage delegate asked him, "Mr. President, what does winning mean to you?" Traoré smiled, calm and composed, as cameras rolled and translators prepared to echo his voice in multiple languages. Then, softly but with unwavering conviction, he said, "Winning is not measured by rings or empires. It's when your people can sleep without fear and wake with purpose. Victory is dignity, not domination." The room stilled. The message struck a chord. Within hours, social media caught fire. Influencers, journalists, youth activists, all began quoting him. The phrase, "Victory is dignity," appeared on shirts, in tweets, and even as protest signs. The hashtag #IrrealWinning exploded globally. Some compared him to Mandela, others to Che Guevara. But more surprisingly, some media pundits began saying Ibrahim Traoré had redefined what greatness means, greater than any MVP title. Those words stung Jordan. 3 days later, Michael stood center stage at a black-tie charity gala in Chicago. He was raising funds for youth scholarships, and the crowd hung on his every word. A reporter asked about Traoré's comment and the headlines praising the African leader for bringing a new meaning to the word winner. Jordan's smile faltered. "He's talking about winning?" he repeated into the mic, his voice laced with disbelief. "Let's be real. Until you fought, in an arena where everything's on the line, where the pressure breaks most men, you don't get to redefine what it means to win." The crowd clapped, a bit nervously, but Jordan wasn't done. Leading a country isn't the same as leading a team. People throw out words like dignity when they've never faced a Game 7. Let's not cheapen greatness. That soundbite became a headline by morning. Jordan challenges Traoré. Don't cheapen greatness. Thousands of miles away, Traoré sat quietly in his modest presidential office. The walls were bare, except for a single-framed photo of his grandfather working in the fields of Dori. He watched the clip of Jordan's remarks twice, his expression unreadable. His advisor, Colonel Dowamba, stood beside him. "You want to respond, Mr. President?" he asked. Traoré took a slow sip of hibiscus tea. Then, with a slight nod, he answered, "Yes, but not with anger. With truth." The next morning, Ibrahim took the podium at an international summit in Addis Ababa. The room was filled with heads of state, diplomats, reporters from CNN, Al Jazeera, and the BBC. He wore his green field jacket and beret, not out of vanity, but symbolism. He began with grace. "I admire athletes like Michael Jordan. His discipline, his excellence, his influence, they've inspired millions. But there's something I must say." He let the silence settle. "Winning is a moment. Dignity is a lifetime. When we fight for water, for justice, for a child to go to school without stepping over a landmine, there's no buzzer, no break, and no trophy. Just the silent knowing that you protected something sacred. He looked directly into the cameras. Mr. Jordan, I've never played in the NBA Finals, but I've stood in the middle of a gunfight to save a village. I've buried friends and sworn never to let their deaths be in vain. If that's not pressure, I don't know what is. The room fell into stunned silence. Then came the applause, measured at first, then growing into a standing ovation. The moment went viral. Even critics of Traore had to admit, this man could move mountains with words alone. And yet, the world wanted more. The stage had been set. The legend of the court and the revolutionary of the Sahel were now entangled in a dialogue the world couldn't look away from. Jordan, watching from his mansion in Florida, felt something he hadn't in years. A worthy challenger, not in sport, but in purpose. And though he wouldn't say it out loud, deep inside, he was beginning to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, he had misunderstood what true greatness looked like. But that question, and its answer, would only come in Chapter 2, when these two giants met face to face. The city pulsed with an energy that only New York could conjure, the kind born of ambition, ego, and the collision of global icons. For weeks, the media had speculated on the convergence of two titans from utterly different realms. Michael Jordan, the legendary king of courts, and Ibrahim Traoré, the battle-hardened revolutionary reshaping Africa's future. After the viral spat, the world demanded more: clarity, confrontation, closure. That moment came at the United Nations Special Youth Summit, a meticulously orchestrated event meant to inspire the next generation, but now eclipsed by the rumored face-off. As dignitaries filled the grand hall, murmurs danced from row to row. Like electricity, he's here. They're both here. Cameras swung from the marble steps to the crimson carpet as Michael Jordan emerged first. His posture impeccable, charisma still magnetic even decades after his final NBA game. Trailing him were media anchors and elite athletes, but it was the hush that fell seconds later that signaled the arrival of the second figure. Ibrahim Traoré, flanked by a modest security detail, donning his iconic olive-drab uniform with quiet defiance. No entourage, no flash, just presence. In that moment, it was clear. This wasn't a sports story or a political episode. This was a meeting of philosophies. Michael Jordan took the stage with the gravity of a man who had been challenged and chosen dialogue over defensiveness. When I spoke of arenas, he began, I spoke of what I know, high stakes, high visibility. I built my legacy one shot at a time. But there are battles that don't make it to ESPN. They don't come with slow-motion replays or shoe endorsements. And I admit, I've learned to listen to those. His voice, seasoned with both pride and humility, resonated beyond basketball. Then came Traoré, rising not just as a military man or political leader, but as a voice of the marginalized. He adjusted the microphone with the kind of precision born not of stagecraft, but of necessity. Mr. Jordan, he said, his tone even, I respect your empire. You mastered a game. But where I come from, the rules were written without us. We play on fields where the goals shift every day, where survival is the only scoreboard. You talk about winning? In my world, a win is when a child goes to school instead of war. A win is when a mother gives birth without fear. A win is when a country stands up and says, we will no longer be owned. The room stilled. He continued, weaving stories of young soldiers disarmed by education, of villages revived by collective will, of lives transformed not by contracts, but by conviction. I'm not here to outshine a legend. I'm here to redefine one, he said. Greatness is not reserved for the loudest. Sometimes the greatest wins are quiet, So quiet the world never hears them. But the people feel them. They live longer. They dream bigger. They rise higher. What followed was a silence that said everything. Not absence of sound, but the weight of realization. And then, thunder. Applause swelled like a storm breaking free as people stood, clapped, cried, and held their breath all at once. Unexpectedly, Michael Jordan stood again. He walked to the stage, not with rivalry in his stride, but reverence. He took Traore's hand and raised it. "From one fighter to another," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "Respect." That single gesture, raw, unrehearsed, erased borders. Click, the cameras caught it, and as the image blazed across screens around the world, something shifted. That evening, pundits debated and influencers reacted, but what stayed with everyone was a feeling, a new understanding of victory. Later that night, Traore sat alone in his modest hotel room, staring at the city skyline. A knock came. It was Jordan. No cameras, no entourage, just two men face to face. "I wanted to ask," Jordan began, "how do you carry that kind of weight and still walk tall?" Traore didn't answer right away. Instead, he handed Jordan a folded piece of paper. On it was a hand-drawn map of a small village in Burkina Faso. "This is where I was born," he said. "The roads weren't paved, the schools didn't have chalk. But my mother taught me that dignity is not given, it's earned, and I swore I'd earn it not just for myself, but for everyone who never had the chance." Jordan looked down, speechless. He had held championship rings, signed million-dollar deals, stood under stadium spotlights, but in that moment, he realized he was standing in a different kind of arena, one where the score wasn't measured in points, but in people. Saved, voices raised, and freedom fought for. They spoke late into the night, not as athlete and activist, but as men stripped of roles, seeking meaning, offering truths. Traore shared stories of coup attempts, betrayals, and his refusal to let Africa be carved up like a forgotten meal. Jordan opened up about regret, the brands that silenced him, the causes he didn't back when he had the chance. "I thought winning meant being the last man standing," Jordan admitted. "Now I wonder if it means making sure others can stand. With you." Traore nodded. It's never too late to change the scoreboard. When the summit ended, the world didn't just walk away with a photo. It walked away with a model. The Jordan Traore moment became case study material in universities, sermons in churches, hashtags online. And more than that, it sparked change. Jordan announced the creation of a fund dedicated to youth leaders in Africa, not as a favor, but as a partnership. Traore invited him to Burkina Faso. A year later, the world watched again, this time as the former NBA star sat in a dusty classroom, watching children recite poems about courage. A new court, a new kind of MVP. The legend had met the revolutionary, and together they redefined what it meant to win.